Hello everybody, welcome back to everybody's favorite movie review series that nobody watches. Today we'll be discussing We Own the Night. Just finished watching it, you know how we do it here. I will be reading the overview from the producers or from whoever, and I will be giving you my overall impressions and grade. After giving the grade, if you have not seen the movie and would like to, based or not based off my recommendation or not recommendation, you want to shut off the video because we will be doing spoiler alerts. Spoiler alerts! We'll be discussing the plot, synopsis, and character development. Similar movies and major themes, no, cops and robbers. So, I've done 100 of these, and I like to do these as if I don't watch action movies every day. And just because most people that are watching a movie aren't as delve as deep into all of these stupid fucking things as I do. So, try to give it pretty unbiased if I can. But we got, in 1988, New York's police wage an all-out war on drugs, and guilty and innocent alike become casualties. Bobby Green, Joaquin Phoenix, manager of a nightclub that is often frequented by gangsters, tries to remain neutral but hides a potentially fatal secret. His brother, Mark Wahlberg, and father, Robert Duvall, are both cops. After his brother is wounded in an assassination attempt, Bobby can no longer remain neutral. He joins forces with his brother for an all-assault on the mob. Directed by James Gray. Budget $21 million, box office $55.3 million. So we got into the black on that one. Sweet. But overall, Google says it was thrilling, gritty, and gripping. Again, decent action flick. Nothing super unique. Cops and robbers, mobs and gangsters. And this one's the Russian mob. So nothing novel there in terms of the just the overall what's going on in the plot. But I thought the production was decent. A little bit of insecurity with the relationship between Bobby Green and his girlfriend Amada Juarez, who's played by Eva Mendes. You do get to see some nipples briefly, which is always a positive. But I thought it was a run-of-the-mill action movie. Nothing novel in the writing. Decently entertaining. So I'll give it. I thought it was slightly less entertaining than the one we did yesterday, which I already forget the name of. Whatever, but I'll give it a B-. In the entertaining range, but again, I've been watching a ton of action movies, so it might be a little more entertaining if you have not been watching action movies 4 times a week. So, I'm just running out of things to watch on Hulu at this point. Jumping over to HBO Max, there's a bunch of old school movies on there that I want to review that I really like. I know a movie that's going to be the first A+. It's not what you think it's going to be, but it's definitely an A+ in my book. And so based off that, if you've not seen this movie, again, run-of-the-mill action flick, cops and robbers, big name actors and actresses, decent, a little bit of insecurity, nothing too novel. That's what you got here. So if you've not seen the movie, we'll now be discussing the plot synopsis and character development. So you open up, Bobby Green is dating Amada Juarez, and she's kind of touching herself a little bit in the opening scenes. They're getting a little hot and heavy. You see some nippies, and then Bobby has to go down and run some things in the club. He's a manager at this club. Again, he's got his father. I just put Daddy Gruzinski because of course Google doesn't have the character list, even though it's a main character. Because obviously, why would we do that? But again, his brother Joe and Daddy Gruzinski are in the police force. His dad is the captain or the chief or the commissioner, I think the highest ranking one, and his brother is a lieutenant or again just not a patrol officer. And so Bobby's got a good relationship with a Russian family. The guy's name is Murat Buzhayev, I think. Buzhayev. I'd rather read it in Cyrillic now, so I can get the sounds I want for sure. So that's pretty exciting. Again, reading and writing, it's always the same stuff, but people do it now. So he's getting hot. He goes down there, or he goes to the club, has to meet something, but the opening scenes, you see him going to this Murat guy's house with his wife, and being really a second family. And so he goes by the name of Bobby Green instead of Gruzinski, which his brother and father go by. And he gets invited to, I think Joe, his brother's, I don't know if he's getting promoted or something, but there's some police event, which again, are cops ever going to do their fucking jobs in real life? Absolutely not. Not even possible whatsoever, can't be done. Regardless, they go to this police thing. He kind of talks with his father and brother a little bit. There's no mom in the picture in this one. But they I think they get into a little yelling match, a little fighting. The relationship's kind of strained where Daddy Gruzinski and Joe seems to be on pretty good terms. Bobby seems to be pretty decently estranged from his family. And so they go there, he gets a little rough and tumble. You know, he smoked some weed before, and then they leave the party. I think they get in the fight at the police station. I forget why Bobby goes to the police station, but he goes there, and him and Joe get into a fist fight, and Bobby has a good friend named Jumbo Falsetti who works with him at the club, or is certainly his friend, as well as they're aware of Vadim. Well, I think they pull him aside. Okay, so at the beginning they pull him aside to say basically, hey Bobby, you know, we're looking into this guy named Vadim, who is moving a lot of drugs, and you know, we've looked into, you know, he's the nephew of Marat Bouzhayev, but we've looked into him, the Marat guy, the older guy, and Vadim is, I don't know, 35, 40, and Marat is, I don't know, 65, 70. And so, but that's his nephew, but basically the police force, or the family police people and a couple of other guys tell Bobby that they're just looking into Vadim, and if he will help him or if he knows anything. And he's basically like, you know, I don't know anything or whatever. And so regardless, Bobby and Joe get into a fight, I think at the police station later for something, and they go at it back and forth. And so then Bobby goes with his girlfriend Amada and Jumbo, his friend, to just some party, play some poker, play some cards, and Joe's getting groceries out of his car outside of his house, and a guy with a bag over his head or a mask comes up and shoots him in the face. And so the bullet, I guess, goes in through his cheek and out through his jaw, misses the brain, so he doesn't have severe injuries. Well, he got shot in the face, but he's in the hospital for I think 4 months. And so it's at this point that Bobby gets approached by Vadim in just like a restaurant area, and Vadim basically says, you know, hey, we think we're trying to make our drugs a brand name, take over the whole market. Again, the least unique writing thing ever, but for an action movie, whatever. And Vadim basically is like, you know, hey Bobby, I think you can help us distribute the drugs through the clubs. And the Marat Bouzhayev offers to open up another club and have Bobby run it. And so Vadim approaches them, and then in this conversation in this diner, he's like, you know, a cop got hit last night. He got lucky and survived. That wasn't an accident. And you know, he says they have like the police commissioner or his dad and just a bunch of cops on the list just to kill. These Russians, I guess, in the movie are not worried about killing American police officers. Where a lot of times, like if you're watching a movie about like the cartels in the southeast America or southeast United States, they're worried about killing American citizens as opposed to just Mexicans or people not in America. But these people are not, and so at this point, again, decent scene in terms of like acting from the Joaquin Phoenix. I just thought it was good because, you know, pairing the kind of estranged from his family, not really, versus, you know, he just learned that they were the ones that just tried to kill his family. So that was a decent acting scene for Joaquin Phoenix. Regardless, but now Bobby knows, he goes directly to his father and to the police force and tells them this. And they're like, you know, what do? We can't really do anything if we arrest him. We don't have any real charges. We need to get him with real weight. Blah, blah, blah. And Bobby kind of suggests, you know, he can act like he's going to go in and run the second club and, you know, just be an informant. And Daddy Grzinski does not want that at all, seeing as his first son just got shot in the face, and this would be extremely risky. Vadim's major right-hand man is Pavel Lubiarsky, and he's kind of just a bigger Russian dude. But basically, he's like, you know, if you want to help us do this, approach Pavel, and we'll get you going. And so Bobby is planning with the rest of the police force. His dad's super against it, and they just kind of leave it at that. But then Bobby approaches one of these other police officers. There's other characters. I just put the major ones up here. And so they're going to have this kind of like off the books or not off the books, but at least his father's not going to know that he's going to be an informant. And so they give him a lighter that has a wire in it, and it's basically just like, you know, do your best, and they have a safe word, feather. If he says feather, the police force is going to come running in. And so he approaches Vadim in his place, you know, and then he has to meet him out back in like an hour, pats him down, puts his hood over his head. And the thing is to go there to try the product, because Bobby's a club owner, snorts coke, or I think it's pretty sure it's coke they're moving. But regardless, he's going to go to the spot, taste the product, and see what he thinks about running this club. And so he goes with them, he gets into the place, he takes a bump of the coke, He starts getting nervous. Vadim calls him out. He's like, why are you getting nervous? Pats him down again, and then finds the wire in the lighter. And so, right when Vadim's really starting to search the lighter, Bobby's like, ooh, that bump made me light as a feather. So the police force knows to come in. And so they do. Big shootout scene, bunch of Russians die, a couple police officers die. Bobby has, I think Pavel gets his head blown off right onto Bobby's face, so Bobby's covered in blood. Big gunfight amongst a bunch of people in this safe house area, and Bobby kind of just launches himself out of a window, falls on a fence, and is decently injured, but not severely, not shot. And so in that scene, Vadim gets away. Does Vadim get away? I think they arrest Vadim in this one. They arrest him, they take him to jail, and but they now know Bobby's going to have to go into protective witness protection because the Russian mob knows who he is and that he tried to set them up. And so Vadim gets arrested. Bobby and Amata are now in protective custody. The 4 months go by, and the next kind of scene you have is Joe getting released from the hospital and having a welcome home party. And so they do that. Bobby's got bodyguards outside, snipers on the roof protecting them. He's also a key witness. He's got to testify in this trial. Then there's another scene where Amata Juarez and Jumbo Falsetti go to Amata's mother's house. I guess Amata's close with her mother, and so they go to eat dinner there. Bobby learns about it and gets really upset just because it endangers their life. And it's like, we have to leave now. And so as they're leaving, they're supposed to have a trail and a follow. But the follow car is like not really there, and one pulls up beside them, and it's the Russians. That they start blasting, and so whoever's driving Bobby's car, he gets killed. Him and Amata are in the back seat. He climbs over the dead body and starts driving the car now. His dad is in another car, and another big 10-minute action scene, maybe a little less, I don't know. But regardless, Daddy Grzinski crashes his car and dies at the scene. So he gets killed in that scene, and now you have Bobby and Joe, who are, again, Bobby's not in the police force, Joe is, but now they've really come together as a family type of deal, seemingly. And so Bobby gets he's preparing for the police force, and he gets like an emergency, I don't know, what's it called, deputization or whatever, just to he gets some sort of authority immediately, but then he's going to have to go to the academy afterwards. But he's now kind of instated as a policeman himself. And so Amata gets really upset at him for not even telling her about the decision. That scene again was brief, 2-3 minutes, but again the screaming, angsty, broken relationship, yelling at each other, shit is just absolutely fucking off-putting every single time. But that happens, and then Amata's kind of out of the picture. She leaves him, and so now they're trying to get Vadim. And so Vadim complains of chest pains, gets transferred to a hospital, and escapes. And so now they're really, I think that happens before they get killed, or before Daddy Grzinski gets killed, but it's all about the same time. So Amata's out of the picture, and then Bobby goes back with he's got a bodyguard, he's now like a moderate police something, and he's talking to Jumbo Falsetti, his friend, and Jumbo says something like, about the place that they were staying. And so at that point, Bobby knows that Jumbo was the one that told the Russians where they were. So he takes him out back, beats him up a bunch, and then he learns that Marat Buzahev is the one that really owns Jumbo. So you don't really get any backstory about why Jumbo owes anything to the Russians, but he had told Marat Buzahev that where Bobby and Amata were staying. And so Bobby beats him up a bit. And then the police interrogate him, and now the whole police force has come together, and they know that Marat is this, who is like a second father to Bobby in the beginning of the movie, is going on. But now the whole police force they're waiting for a big drug shipment, and they're going to try to pinch everybody. So they get some information on that. They follow the Russians to this abandoned warehouse, and it's kind of like the Everglade type of area. It's in New York, but maybe it's kind of like a woodland. There's a lot of tall reeds and stuff around this really, really run down shack or warehouse. And they do this drug deal, and then Joe Grzinski, who's now back in full after the injury, goes on the microphone, hey, this is the police, big gunfire, a lot of Russians die, one of the police officers die. Again, they kill a bunch of dudes. I think Vadim and Marat Buzahev both kind of escape out of the back into this like tall reeds, like kind of like not swamp, but just like woodland, I don't know what to call it. But there's tall reeds where you can't really see. And so they're all trying to find him. They end up finding and arresting Marat, and then they still can't find Vadim. And so they decide to like burn the reeds to smoke him out. So they light all the reeds on fire, and he's not coming out. Bobby Green goes back into the reeds, finds Vadim, and shoots him. And then Vadim is dead, and then they've arrested Marat. And then Marat, Bobby comes up and approaches Marat, and Marat's like, I didn't know this was going to be your family. And so the conclusion of the movie is Bobby and Joe Bobby gets formally put on the police force, and Joe gets promoted to like captain or something. And so the last scene is them graduating the police academy or whatever, and giving a speech and kind of like in remembrance of their dad or their father Brzezinski. So that's really the end of the movie. Again, I thought it was decently entertaining for an action movie. Didn't read the 6.8 out of 10 on IMDb, 57% on Rotten Tomatoes, 3.4 out of 5 on Letterboxd, still whatever the fuck that is, and 77% like this on Google. So again, the ratings in the one yesterday were a little higher, but I enjoyed it. I mean, it was just your typical action flick. If you don't watch these every day, it'd probably be decently entertaining. So that's that. Really nothing else to say. So thank you for watching my review of We Own the Night, and I will see you on the next one.